Good morning. Happy Sunday. Proverbs 25 verse 6, NLT. Don't demand an audience with the king or push for a place among the great. Proverbs 25 verse 11, NLT. Timely advice is lovely, like golden apples in a silver basket. Mark 6 verse 30, NLT. The apostles returned to Jesus from their ministry tour and told him all they had done and taught. Mark 6 verse 31, AMP, he said to them, "Come away by yourselves to a secluded place and rest a little while." For there were many people who were continually coming and going, and they could not even find time to eat. Mark 6 verse 32, AMP, and they went away by themselves in the boat to a secluded place. Mark 6 verse 33, AMP, many people saw them leaving and recognized them and ran there together on foot from all the surrounding cities and got there ahead of them. Mark 6 verse 34, AMP, when Jesus went ashore, he saw a large crowd waiting, and he was moved with compassion for them because they were like sheep without a shepherd lacking guidance, and he began to teach them many things. Mark 6 verse 35, AMP, when the day was nearly gone, his disciples came to him and said, "This is an isolated place, and it is already late." Mark 6 verse 36, AMP, send the crowds away so that they may go into the surrounding countryside and villages and buy themselves something to eat. Mark 6 verse 37, AMP, but he replied, "You give them something to eat." And they asked him, "Shall we go and buy 200 denarii worth of bread and give it to them to eat?" Mark 6 verse 38, AMP, he said to them, "How many loaves do you have? Go look." And when they found out, they said, 5 loaves and 2 fish. Mark 6 verse 39, AMP, then Jesus commanded them all to sit down by groups on the green grass. Mark 6 verse 40, AMP, they sat down in groups of hundreds and of 50s, so that the crowd resembled an orderly arrangement of colorful garden plots. Mark 6 verse 41, AMP, taking the 5 loaves and 2 fish, he looked up to heaven and said a blessing of praise and thanksgiving to the Father. Then he broke the loaves and repeatedly gave them to the disciples to set before the people, and he divided up the 2 fish among them all. Mark 6 verse 42, AMP, they all ate and were satisfied. Mark 6 verse 43, AMP, and the disciples picked up 12 full baskets of the broken pieces of the loaves and of the fish. Mark 6 verse 44, AMP, those who ate the loaves were 5,000 men, not counting the women and children. Mark 6 verse 45, AMP, Jesus immediately insisted that his disciples get into the boat and go ahead of him to the other side to Bethsaida, while he was dismissing the crowd. Mark 6 verse 46, AMP, and after he said goodbye to them, he went to the mountain to pray. Mark 6 verse 47, AMP, now when evening had come, the boat was in the middle of the sea, and Jesus was alone on the land. Mark 6, 48, AMP, seeing the disciples straining at the oars, because the wind was against them, at about the 4th watch of the night, 3 to 6 a.m. He came to them, walking on the sea, and acted as if he intended to pass by them. Mark 6 verse 49, AMP, but when they saw him walking on the sea, they thought it was a ghost and cried out in horror. Mark 6 verse 50, AMP, for they all saw him and were shaken and terrified. But he immediately spoke with them and said, "Take courage, it is I am. Stop being afraid." Mark 6 verse 51, AMP, then he got into the boat with them, and the wind ceased as if exhausted by its own activity, and they were completely overwhelmed. Mark 6 verse 52, AMP, because they had not understood the miracle of the loaves, how it revealed the power and deity of Jesus. But in fact, their heart was hardened, being oblivious and indifferent to his amazing works. Mark 6 verse 53, AMP, when they had crossed over the sea, they reached the land of Gennesaret and anchored at the shore. Mark 6 verse 54, AMP, they got out of the boat and immediately people recognized him. Mark 6 verse 55, AMP, and ran throughout that surrounding countryside and began to carry around on their mats those who were sick, to any place where they heard he was. Mark 6 verse 56, AMP, and wherever he came into villages or cities or the countryside, they were laying the sick in the marketplaces and pleading with him to allow them just to touch the fringe, tassel with a blue cord, of his robe, and all who touched it were healed. SunnyKim800.com. On social media, Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow.